Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Expert to Authority show. My name is Simone Vincenzi, and I'm your host. And this is the show for coaches, speakers, and trainers and experts who want to grow their businesses while making an impact in the world. And every month and every week, actually, we give you different episodes. Sometimes a solo episode, sometimes I have a guest, sometimes I interview a client to show them what they're doing to grow their businesses. So today is actually the topic of Nail It Leadership. So we're going to explore throughout this episode what is nailed leadership and also how we struggles and what we can do to implement the self-leadership in our life because we all know that in the work that we do, we are leaders and we are leaders for our lives, we are leaders for others in our work, in our field, but sometimes can be difficult to keep ourselves accountable to a high standard and also to lead our lives in the way that we want in the middle of all this curveball that we are thrown. So we're going to explore how can we create optimal performance. And to do that, my guest today, she's a health and performance expert specializing in optimal performance, creating in particular remarkable and sustainable transformation and success over short-term fixes that don't last. That's also why I love this particular topic and this aspect. She has been an innovator, a disruptor, and leader in the field of health for over 20 years and is a multi-award winning coach, speaker, entrepreneur, and author. She's the one and only Dr. Rana Al Falaki. Rana, it's great to have you here.
I almost feel like a big drum roll after that introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you for having
The
me.
one and only Dr. Rana Al Falaki. That's better, right? That's better.
That's it. That's it.
We can go there. So first of all, to get started, what is Nail It Leadership?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Exactly. Now, I think firstly, actually, even just nail it down, narrow it down to the word leadership, because when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, and especially when I got into speaking, I would just yawn when people would talk about leadership, like, oh, here we go again. Yeah, exactly. Another boring old topic, and someone's going to talk about productivity and time management and all of that kind of dry stuff. So the difference in leadership, it's about self-leadership, right? Self-leadership is really about knowing who you are, what you want, and how you're going to get it. Nail it leadership adds a layer onto that because actually the power in leadership is not all those hard skills like strategic planning. The real power in leadership are the soft skills, which are really not so soft. And it's all the stuff that it's very difficult to find information about for people to really train you about. So Nail It Leadership, it really encompasses a combination of all of those soft skills of leadership combined with integrity, really understanding who you are, combined with well-being, preserving who you are as a vessel, as a body, as a mind, so that you can make changes and keep them going. I love this quote that was I heard by Robin Sharma years ago, who got me into my personal development journey. And he said, a man's mind, once stretched by a new idea, never retains its original dimensions. And with my history being in dentistry as a specialist periodontist, we in dentistry we talk about elastic bands. Like when you have your teeth moved, right? You have to move them, and it's like you have all these elastic bands. You have fibers all around your teeth. And then you have to wear retainers. Like most people get Invisalign nowadays, so they'll get it, right? They end up with these retainers at the end. And if you don't wear your retainers, if you don't comply, everything goes back to how it was. And that's exactly what it is in life. If we don't stretch you long enough and keep you there, then you will bounce back. You won't make sustainable change. But the question is, how do you keep yourself there? And that's where that well-being piece, and by that, I'm not just talking about, just sleeping well. I'm talking about well-being in terms of your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, financial health, which is what my mission is, and environmental, I should say, so your organization. So it's that beautiful combination of leadership and well-being combined to give you what I call optimal performance, this place of not high performance, because we hear about high performance and peak performance all the time. But here's the thing, when you are a peak performer, you will eventually burn out because you will go up and up and up. You will obsess, you get tunnel vision. And the research shows this, the studies show this. I'm a living proof of it. You're a peak performer, we get that obsessive behavior, unhealthy ambition. and you will burn out. The same as if you are a low performer. I mean, who wants to boast about not achieving? So again, you will have low mood, relationships will fail, and you will ultimately have the same symptoms as burnout. So optimal performance is not about average, because we're not talking about being average. I don't expect anybody who works with me to be average. We don't want any entrepreneur or solopreneur to be average, do we? But optimal performance is about reaching that peak. Get up there quickly, but sustain it and keep on improving. So
So
it's far superior
question
to
that I
peak
have, yeah, the
performance.
question I have for you now, from this, because I can see now the link between leadership and well-being. Like
Mm-hmm.
you cannot be a great leader if you are not well. You're leading, like is everything is about energy, is about the energy that you're putting out, and so leadership and well-being, they come together. And I've got two questions. The first one is, why has not been done before? Because now that you explain it like this, it makes sense. Leadership and well-being, they go together. But why does not being addressed together since now, or since the way you put them across, you put them together? Well, before it was mainly about the hard skill, or it was about, okay, work as much as you want to achieve this goal. So why is that, in your opinion?
I think one may be the thing we don't like to talk about that happened in 2020, when everybody's life changed in some way, shape, or form. Everybody was affected in some format, and I think through that, well-being became taken more seriously. It came to the fore. Mental well-being, emotional well-being. It suddenly became that it's okay to talk about these things. And not only is it okay to talk about these things, but it's on trend to talk about these things, and it's appropriate.
Mm.
And hearing those words that we talk about, like, like resilience and mental health and emotional intelligence. I mean, emotional intelligence, the studies show 90% more effective leadership if you have high levels of emotional intelligence, far more success in your productivity, in your relationships, in your health and your financial status. So all of that has come into the public eye. So well-being has come into the public eye. And then leadership was always for the business world, and and when I say business world, I mean corporate world. No one was really talking about self-leadership and understanding that leadership is something that everybody can have and everybody needs and everybody requires. Like you said in your introduction, we are all leaders, whatever your role happens to be. And back to that definition of self-leadership, of, who are you, what do you want, and how are you going to get it? So I think that's where I think so. It's just times have changed, that the link has started to be there. Burnout has become a very well-known term. Still, a lot of people don't really know what it means. And I get irritated when people say, oh, I'm a burnout coach. And the way I'm going to help you is I'm going to help you breathe, and I'm going to help you relax, and I'm going to help you slow down, and I'm going to help you put some boundaries in place. Yeah, you need all of those. But the reality is, unless that first bit of leadership of who you are, unless you really sort that out, you will keep repeating the same patterns again and again and again. And I know that from myself, and I know that from many clients who I've worked with. They'll come to me with, it's a surface layer, right? It's a problem. I've got a problem and I'm working so hard and I'm trying to achieve. Why are you trying to achieve all that in the first place? What is it that's driving you? And like I said, optimal is not about compromise. Optimal is about even better. So we're not talking about slowing you down, but you've got to understand. So, to share a little bit of my own story, I was definitely the overachiever, and I call it the achiever gremlin. We all have a gremlin in us. It's that biggest limiting belief that some people will hear as, I'm, imposter syndrome, I'm not good enough, or I'm not clever enough, or I'm not lucky enough to have the right contacts, whatever that happens to be. It becomes something that it always starts with the I am not.
Mhm.
Something that's wrong with you. So for me, the achiever was still a gremlin, because deep down it was a feeling of, I'm not deserving enough. So I developed this prover gremlin that worked so unbelievably hard and had no boundaries and pushed and pushed and pushed. Now, yes, someone could have told me to slow down, but unless I really fixed what was inside me, unless I fixed my core, my energy inside, I kept going for years. I kept going for 30 years, repeating the same patterns until I learned to love myself, like myself, respect myself, value myself, and honor my needs, which of course is where one of the pillars of Nail It, the N stands for your needs.
And that's a perfect example of knowing who you are. Like you cannot do this work if you don't know what kind of work is your work, because your gremlins are different from my gremlins, are different from her gremlins or his gremlins, and so that's the part of knowing who you are. The other question that I have for you is about optimal performance, because you made this distinction earlier about peak performance and optimal performance. How do I know I'm not leaning against the wrong tree? How do I know I'm in optimal performance? And how do I know maybe I'm not or in peak performance and I'm maybe risking to burn out or low performance? How do I know what can I see around me to know that I'm
Yeah,
in
well,
optimal
I
performance?
call this the play model. The play, I mean, Nail It is like 38 components, which get you to what I call this play model. So imagine a Venn diagram. You've got three circles and you've got a box around it. What's in these three circles? So the one is about productivity. So all of the things in Nail It are going to make you incredibly highly productive. Great, tick the box. What's in the other two? The other two that we've got an L there, right? So I don't like the word work-life balance, because your life is not work and life, everything else outside of it, right? Especially if you're an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, my God, your work is your life and that's it. But so let's use the word living. Like, how are you living your life? So it's about living your life. So what is there? Is there relationships, is there financial health, personal relationships, professional relationships, friends? What are you doing with your health practices, your body physically? What are the 8 forms of wealth, right? All of that, emotional health, mental health, your peers around you, everything. So like, how are you living your life? So that's the balance piece. And the third arm is the A, is for about amuse, right? Why are we on this earth? We're supposed to be here to have fun too. So we're supposed to be happy, right? What do people seek? Everybody seeks, they think they seek money, but the reality is they seek happiness.
True.
So the A is about amuse. And again, this is where all the components of Nail It will lead you to each of these three things. So what's outside the box? I said that the word play, that's a why. And the why is about yielding to habits, because unless you're willing to do the work and change habits, and a habit is about how you think, not just about what you do. A habit is about the habit of being yourself. It's about who you are. And unless you change all of that, then you don't reach optimal performance. So how do you know if you're performing optimally? Is ask yourself that question. Are all these things in equilibrium? Am I being really highly productive, but do I still feel happy, at peace, joyful, in harmony? Is there synergy in my life? Can I tap into flow? So these are all the other little parts of the Venn diagram. And is my life in balance? And am I still constantly implementing new habits, changing and growing as an individual? That's how you know you're performing optimally.
Now I can already feel some of the people that might be listening or watching right now and be like, damn, that's a lot. Right?
Yeah.
But I want because even the people that I work with, or myself included, high performer, high achiever. And if there is one thing that I found that we have in common is that our calendar is full.
Always.
And I'm sure that your calendar, I don't know, I'm making an assumption, but it will not be the lightest one. And other people that want to get going, they have got dreams, they got projects that they want to get on. So, and also the other thing that I know is that personal transformation takes time. You talked about sustainable transformation, right? So it's not about, oh, let me use the play model today, and today
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy, so I'm good, let's me move on. Where does someone start? And with that, can you also give an example, maybe of a client that you work with that had a sustainable transformation, but done in steps?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's like, wait, you have to start with yourself, right? This is about self-leadership, right? Because if you change who you are and you change the energy around you, you change the circumstances, the people, the decisions that you make, all of that, which is really where the strength of Nail It is about you as an individual shifting, and that's how you lead. So I'll talk about it through a client. So this particular client, he was worked in business, right? He was very, very high up, C-suite. And he came to one of my nail experiences. That's when I first started working with him. And his complaint at the time was, I just don't feel right. It's this classic unfulfilled feeling, which eventually that gets louder and louder, doesn't it? It's like, I'm working hard, I'm looking all around me, I should be happy. I've got money, everything should be okay, but I don't feel it. And when we delved deeper, it turned out actually he had been in separate bedrooms from his wife for a long time, but so they're living with that pretense and that tension, and his team actually weren't performing as well as they should have been. So he had pressures at work and things as well, but he just didn't feel happy. So one of these is just one of the little snippet of what I taught him. So I taught him one of the things that we talk about knowing yourself is about authenticity. So this is in the I for nail it. First I stands for integrity. So it's the valuable being blueprint. And so the A there, it stands for authenticity. So it's one of the components. So I went through an exercise with him that I call the 3x3. And so what we did was I got him to go and describe himself first. So the first was called reveal. He had to describe himself to himself in 3 words. That's not easy, but he had to think, okay, right, what are the three ways that he would describe himself? Wrote it down. The next thing, and so I'd invite your listeners to do this, and it can be a tough challenge. So if needs be, just say, listen, I heard this podcast by Dr. Rana, and she gave me this exercise, so that you don't feel like you're asking people, what do you think of me? You have to go and ask 3 people from different elements of your life what they think about you. So it might be someone who you've only just met, someone who you have an intimate relationship with, be that child, parent, best friend, and then I'll say a work colleague. So you want 3 different things, and you will ask them the same thing. Please describe me in 3 words. I'm not going to take offense. And then you've got a grid. So the next thing is to recognize. So what he had to do is he had to circle any of those words that matched how he described himself. And guess what he found? There was very, very little consistency.
Wow.
So, of course, I mean, like, you put it down on paper, right? You reflect. And then based on that, of course, it started to dawn on him the understanding that while he saw himself as someone who was really relaxed and approachable, his work colleagues saw him as completely unapproachable. They saw him as frustrated and angry. So you start wondering, at work, why are the team dynamics not working? And his wife saw him differently as well. And you start thinking, so this is all about authenticity, right? So then, of course, I then taught him lots of techniques that he needed to change. So habits to start shifting, to start becoming more authentic. We hear this word so often, right? Authenticity, and about the need for vulnerability, particularly in leadership.
Yeah.
The need to show yourself, the need to take off the mask. But until when you're living this way, you don't even know the mask is there. It's glued on. So we're not talking about feeling that you're false, that you're being fake. This mask has come onto you for so many reasons, probably from childhood, maybe from being at school or from being bullied, or a need to protect yourself. So how do you take the mask off? And then I taught him various techniques that related to, being able to ultimately create trust and share vulnerability and show himself. And of course, what happened? Well, guess what? He ended up in the same bedroom with his wife again. That's a pretty good start. And financially, things started to improve at work, and he started to get connections with his team. And this is where it leads to optimal performance, because he was happier, right? He started to feel a connection with people. So he starts to get more fulfillment while still having incredible career success. And that's what optimal performance is. It's high levels of success in every part of your life, not just one.
I love that. In particular, the starting point. If we're thinking about an action that our viewers and listener can take today, is to do that 3x3 exercise.
Sure.
That is a game changer, because now you can see really how people see you, how you see yourself. And that becomes now the starting point to say, okay, what do I need to change now? Or what do I want to change in order to be seen a different way, in order to have a different quality of life? And I think that's crucial for everyone. So here's my recommendation to everyone who's watching or listening. In the show notes, there is Dr. Rana's LinkedIn profile. So do the 3x3 exercise and message her. So tell her that you have attended, you've watched or listened to this podcast, and then let her know the results. I'm sure she will be pleased
Yes,
with that.
I
I'm
would
sure she will.
love that. Yes, let's do
Let's
it. Let's set
let's do
everybody
it.
a
Let's do it.
challenge.
So send it over. Do the exercise and then send it over to Dr. Rana LinkedIn profile. The link is in the show notes, as well as the link also to their website. Because if you're now intrigued and you say, "Wow, I love this nail it model, the play model, the 3x3 exercises," it looks like she has a lot more in her bag to show. So make sure you follow her and check out her website while I'm here talking about this. I love to move a bit more the conversation around flow state. Because you
Mm,
mentioned flow state as one of the things that also you help your clients with, that your methodology helps with. Let's first define flow state, and then secondly, talk about what creates flow state. Let's have that conversation now.
yeah. Well, on that Venn diagram, the play model, where the two circles combine between productivity and happiness, that's where flow sits. So what is flow state? Gosh, flow state is this wonderful feeling where we have that phrase, right? I'm in the flow. It's that wonderful time where time stands still and yet you are unbelievably productive. You are completely laser focused. Nothing will get in the way. You cannot believe how much you've been able to do. You are not deterred. And at the same time, you're not tired. You feel completely energized. You're getting like downloads left, right, and center. You feel inspired. You feel really happy and elevated. You're seriously buzzing. And it's an incredible, unbelievable feeling, which sometimes some people experience it occasionally. But if you train yourself, you can tap into it and come out of it just as effectively. So you are your communication is fantastic, and it's literally like being able to I call it a bit like being the eagle. When you imagine an eagle's flying, right, and they always look sideways to kind of a bird always looks sideways to see out of its eyes, and it's to be able to oversee absolutely everything and at the same time be able to see how everything fits together, a little bit like the matrix, like you've got complete and utter control and you can just put everything together and you find the solutions. So that's flow state. I mean, it's a wonderful place to be. It's an energetic state. So the work I do with what we call core energy coaching, it's very much at that very, very high level of energy that you can tap into when you become a much more conscious being, meaning you need to work on yourself. And it's when you have that sense of synergy and you feel completely connected. So the other question, how to get there?
The question, how to get there? How do we
How
get
to
to
get
that flow
there?
state?
So one of the tricks is one of the mistakes I see happen all too often, particularly when people are thinking about productivity and time management, is they like you said, we're always busy, right? So there's far too much in the diary. So the thing is with flow state is you have to allow yourself time to get into it, and you also have to allow then to stay in it and time to get out of it. So if I was going to give anybody advice today, it would be time block your diary for at least 2 hour blocks. And when you have a task and gosh, you really don't want to do it, you need to allow 15 to 20 minutes to get into flow state, which means you need to get over yourself. And there are different tactics and things. I mean, I can mention a couple that come from this. It's what I call the in the tangibility, which is the T of nail it. It's a three-part model, which is aim, act, and attain. And the M is about move. In other words, just do it. Like you've got to actually just start to make something happen. So this is what you have to do with flow state. You just have to start. So what can you do? You can turn off your phone from any distractions. You can set yourself an appropriate intention. There's something I love called the 5 second rule: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. And before you let procrastination get in the way, and just start it. And as long as you don't try and distract yourself, but actually, I won't start this. I'll just go and look at my phone, and actually, I'll just go make myself a cup of tea, and I'll just make this phone call. No, it's like no. And if you keep going like that, by 15, 20 minutes, you will start to tap into flow.
Yeah.
And there are various breathing exercises. There's actually breath work you can do as well to get yourself into flow state. There's up-regulating breath work that will actually allow you to tap into flow as well. It's absolutely amazing. The one thing I will say is afterwards, be aware that you will be really buzzy. So give yourself time to wind down again. And that's again different types of breath work with down regulating. and sort of activating the vagal nerve to just allow yourself to calm back down again. I mean, I've been on a massive major project the last month on creating whole different websites and a whole well-being platform actually for healthcare professionals. A ginormous amount of work. I've literally been living in flow for almost the entire month, and actually on that very, very little sleep, but completely buzzy. It's literally like I imagine it must be like to be on drugs, and it's been incredible. It's like an adrenaline fix. You love it, and but you recover very well as well. So this isn't about being
I
unhealthy.
agree. I can definitely relate to that, in particular when I'm speaking. So when
Mm,
I'm speaking and I'm at an event, it's almost like that I'm in the moment. I'm there. I'm not, I can do that thing for 3 days, back to back, 10 hours a day with very little sleep. And I'm buzzing, I'm aware, I'm in control of the room, I can see everything. So, and if I think about even when I do my best work, is when I start and I create space for that work to unfold. Because then one idea comes, the other idea comes. And so one of the things that I do, both me and my wife work from home. So I put my phone in my wife's office because I know, one, I'm not going to go in there to disturb her. So I'm not going to dare to check my phone and to
yeah,
take it.
yeah,
And that has been a game changer for me to allow these time blocks without getting distracted or start scrolling here and there. Just removing that distraction helped me, okay, we're here to do this work. Let's let that unfold. Um,
yeah.
I am curious from your personal side, because that's a question that I haven't asked you yet. Why did you start in this field? I know I should have asked you probably this question at the
Well, no,
beginning,
but I,
but I
I
was
kind of
so
alluded.
much into the flow of this conversation, talking about flow state, that I, what made you, so you were working as a dentist, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I alluded to
But
it a little bit with the overachiever. I know it's like people don't think, oh, hang on, wait, dentist coaching, where, how did
yeah,
that? But actually, it's the discipline of dentistry that I was in for 25 years. So it's periodontics, which means inflammation around the teeth. So we're treating people with gum disease, and it's a chronic disease, just like heart disease, just like diabetes, and it increases your risk of those diseases, as well as Alzheimer's and kidney disease and strokes and depression. So I was always interested in the human sides. And so obviously lifestyle is a massive contributor to any chronic disease or chronic inflammation. So that was what always fascinated me about my patients. So my thesis was actually on stress at the time. I was fascinated by it. So my entire thesis was all about stress and what it does to the body, to the human body, how it contributes to disease. And then obviously with periodontitis, there's stuff going on biologically and there's stuff going on behaviorally. So I spent 25 years working on patients to shift their behavior and shift their mindset, because they could sit in my chair and I could operate on them, but nothing was going to work unless they changed, including their belief systems and their behavior. And then, so that was one. And the other part was my own personal journey. So I alluded to it slightly when I talked about being a high performer, several levels of burnout, never ever dealing with all the emotional rubbish and trauma that happened in my life from childhood onwards, including abuse and miscarriages and abusive relationships and divorce. I mean, it was pretty tough. But I always was one of these people who had such a mask on. I would just smile and say, "It's fine, it's fine." And I used to, until eventually it caught up with me. So I became chronically ill through this kind of burnout, and a cardiologist diagnosing me with a condition where I got to the point where I couldn't walk, and then I couldn't get out of bed, and I couldn't get to work, and so eventually life was about to start crashing down. So that was my final wake up call. I kind of dipped in and out of personal development, and then it was like, actually, you know what, Rana, it's time for you to actually really show yourself to the world and be yourself. And obviously, like I said, I had the skills from my clinical work and running in my own practice and my own business. I had two practices, two clinics. I had a speaking practice as well. I'd done lots of innovative work. I traveled all around the world. And then my own story, so I sold my practice. And we talked about leadership at the beginning, didn't we? And when I let go of the ego, I realized, and it was also working with a coach at the time, that I was still a leader I didn't need to have a practice to
Yeah.
still be a leader. And once I let go of that, that's when I then decided, well, what shall I do? I've sold my clinic. And then it just came across me. Actually, you know what? I'm going to train to be a coach so that I can everything I have been doing, but so I can formally do it and do it properly. So of course, being the high achiever, I couldn't just do a quick coaching program. I did like one of the top ones and one of the best ones. And then of course I couldn't stop there. And I've written lots of books and all the rest of it since. But that's my passion. It's my driver. So it comes from my own story, and I've used my other experiences in life to add to that.
No, it makes perfect sense. And there is something that made me reflect, something that you said that made me reflect about a moment that happened after COVID in my life, where uh, I worked so hard to change the business because we were running about 100 events a year at that time. So I was speaking, we did 1,000 events in 5 years that I spoke at. So 100 events with my company, another 100 for external speaking gigs. So I was speaking about every 2 days to 3 days, sometimes 4 days in a row. And I loved that life, absolutely loved it. And so when COVID hit, then everything that I loved was removed from me because I'm a very social person. I couldn't run events anymore. I cannot meet people. My safe space, my happy place is when I play basketball. I cannot play basketball. I cannot play in a team. So everything was removed. And I still had a company to run. I got 14 staff members. So got to put my head down and work to change the entire structure of the company and still serve the clients that we had. In fact, we had about 140 clients we were working with. We had 3 cancellations. We changed everything and only 3 cancellations over 140. And they bought in-person events. So they could have all asked for their money back or stop paying. It wasn't their right because we couldn't able to support it anymore. So after that stint, then what happened is that I had a huge crash to the point that I was thinking even about closing GTeX. And that was now, let's say we are 12 years into GTeX. So it's not a new business, it's 12 years in. And in order to find love again for GTeX, I had to be okay with the fact of closing it. I had to look at myself and say, it's okay if I don't close because my identity was wrapped up
Exactly.
into being the GTeX founder. So remove GTeX for the equation is like, who am I? And that took me another year and a half of journey to find that and to see me and GTeX as two separate things, two separate entities, where how well is doing G is GTeX doing doesn't have anything to do with who am I as a person. And so that's when you said that part, it really connected because
100%.
when I was okay with the fact of I can shut this down and I'm okay with it, that actually why the passion for GTEX came back again. And I'm like, okay, I want to do this. And then I went back into my creativity and my flow state and so on.
It's what sets you free. And I know you're running out of time. So I just maybe just point one other kind of useful thing for your listeners, because we're back to this self-leadership, right? Who are you? And exactly that, like I will often start off asking exactly that, like, who are you, without the label, right? Without the label. So for me, like without the label of a business owner or a mother or a dentist or whatever your label is, like when you introduce yourself to someone, how do you introduce yourself? Don't talk about, I'm a solopreneur. Like, who are you? And then, like, when we think we get a gift, right? Someone sends you a package, and it's it's a gift, right? Because no one ever sees each other nowadays, right? They'll send you a package on Amazon or whatever, right? What happens when you get this box? Do you like look at the label and you think, oh my god, I'm so excited by this label that has my name on it? Or are you excited to open the box and see what's inside? Because that's you. So take that and think, in your everyday life, what are you getting excited about? The label or what's inside? Because if you treasure that person and you develop that person, that's your ticket to freedom and optimal performance.
Oh, yeah, that's such a great conversation. I absolutely love every second of this conversation. But my final question, which is for you, like, what's next for you? What you got boiling in the pot?
Oh, well, like I said, my mission is 100% to empower people to embrace all forms of well-being and health. So I finished writing my book. It's now finally at the design phase. We've got I finished the book and then we've gone back and forth, but it's got better every time. So that book, Nail It Leadership, is just in the process of going through that final design stage, and then we're going to have a great big launch and offer people, like I've designed a Nail It program specifically for the medical, dental, healthcare professional world. But we will do another one for general public as well, so that you get taken through everything in there. But yeah, the next focus is really going to be the book, Nail It Leadership.
All right. Well, all the best with the book. Please let us know when it's ready. And also for everyone who's here, if you enjoyed this interview, which I'm sure you did, otherwise you would not be still listening or watching here right now. So make sure you check the links for Rana in the show notes or in the description. You can find their LinkedIn contacts, their website, all the other social media, they are there. And make sure you connect because this topic of what we are talking about in terms of who we are, how we perform, that's the foundation of everything that we are doing. Without that, we can have all the biggest dreams and hopes and plans, but that's the foundation. They will not happen without it, or they might happen, but at cost or consequences. Or maybe we work on the wrong dreams and we work on the wrong things. So make sure you take this interview, apply what you've learned, reach out to Dr. Rana, wait for their book as well, and see also when she's speaking next, because I know she's speaking all the times in all of events. So make sure you follow her. And Rana, thank you again for being here on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you, Simone. Thank you for your time. And yeah. So don't forget, so you're going to have to give me your 3 words too. Huh? You're going to have to do the 3 by 3 exercise yourself.
Okay, challenge.
Posted. That's the challenge.
Challenge accepted. Challenge
Okay.
accepted. I gotta do my 3 by 3 exercise and then send it over to you. And then everyone else, make sure you do it. So
Perfect.
everyone, thank you very much for watching or listening. If you haven't subscribed to the show, make sure you subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform. And also leave us a review if you enjoy the show. The reviews are the lifeblood of every show. So let us know that you enjoyed. Of course, give a 5-star review. It's good for the show. It's good for the guest. It's good for my ego. So it's good for everyone. And I cannot wait to see you next time. And always remember that together we grow exponentially. Ciao.